Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we get started, I just want to quickly let you all know that I think you're beautiful. It is a hot and humid day here in Australia and our AC unit has decided to completely crap itself. So I've currently got 3 fans pointed at me, one just behind me, one above, and one just behind the camera, just to keep both me and the camera from overheating. So if there's a bit of extra background noise, my apologies. Anyway, from the title, you probably already know that we're here to talk about weight and weight loss today. But I think we all know that weight is a very complex and rightfully can be a very emotional topic for many of us. And I'm sure we all have an opinion on this, so I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm here to tell you what I believe. I'm just hoping to bring some light and clarity to this topic from a health perspective, since I have a little bit of experience with health and nutrition specifically, because over the last few years I've been studying and graduating and studying and graduating again, and finally I've become an accredited practicing dietitian. But also, I'm just a guy, and I'm not living in a larger body. So, as much research as I do, as many studies as I read, there will be things that I miss because I don't have the deep lived experience. So if I do miss anything or get anything wrong here, please kindly let me know. I'm here to learn too. And throughout the video, there will be parts where I'll touch on eating disorders, and I'll put up a little warning on the screen just a few seconds before, so if you'd like, you can skip that entire section of the video. Alright, so in today's video, I'll take us on a little journey to explore the traditional weight loss focused approach to health and whether that actually improves people's health. And if it doesn't, is there an alternative? And does the alternative work? And by the end, hopefully we can all walk away with our own more informed perspectives, and we can all have our own answers to questions like, is weight loss inherently fat phobic and anti-weight inclusivity? Or is size acceptance just encouraging people to be unhealthy? Okay, time's ticking. Let's dive in. Here we go! Since the dawn of the universe, healthcare has operated on this very basic logic. So, higher body weight is linked with a bunch of chronic health issues like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, certain cancers, and stroke. So the logical solution that a lot of people came to was basically to get rid of the diseases, we have to get rid of the weight. And if you want to get rid of the weight, your options are dieting, exercising, medication, surgery. Pick your poison. This has been the go-to approach in healthcare forever. If you weigh more, you're less healthy, so lose the weight and problem solved, supposedly. As we all know, it's not that simple, because this whole approach is built on some pretty big assumptions. Number 1, higher body weight means worse health. Number 2, losing weight means improved health. And number 3, most people can lose weight and keep it off long term. I know, big assumptions. And over the years, we've gathered more and more evidence that's made people realize that we might have been bouncing to a conclusion with these assumptions. And many of us might even have real-life experience that contradicts these assumptions. And research agrees. Yes, there are associations between higher body weight and chronic diseases, as we've mentioned before. However, research has also shown that there are people with a BMI over 30 who have normal metabolic profiles or are metabolically healthy, and the risk of developing heart disease or diabetes is completely different from other people at the same BMI who do have metabolic issues. So there's another reason why someone's BMI alone can't tell us if they're healthy or not. And the latest clinical practice guidelines from Canada, which are sets of guidelines for health professionals, now only use the term adults living with obesity when someone's body fat is actually causing health problems or reducing their lifespan. This is very different from just slapping the label on anyone with a BMI over 30, regardless of whether or not they actually have any health issues. So newer medical guidelines are now starting to move away from this idea that just being in a larger body automatically equals being unhealthy. It is now also more widely accepted that we can improve our health outcomes through lifestyle changes, regardless of whether or not there is weight loss. So traditionally it goes, make diet and lifestyle changes to lose weight, and that weight loss will lead to improved health. But now we have evidence that we can make these lifestyle changes, and those lifestyle changes can lead straight to improved health, regardless of whether or not there is weight loss. But wait, there's more. Research shows that when people go through weight loss programs, they regain on average 30 to 40% of the weight they lost within just 1 year. And when researchers follow up with people for longer, like 2 to 5 years, most people gradually return to their starting weight, or sometimes they gain even more weight than where they started. So that classic just eat less and move more advice, we might get some success with this in the short run, but the advice is not really holding up in the long-term success department. The idea behind it is fine, theoretically, but in practice, the execution just doesn't seem to be leading up to much meaningful long-term success. And what happens when people use these weight-focused approaches and don't lose weight or don't lose a predetermined amount of weight? They don't blame the approach. They blame themselves. On top of already being blamed and shamed by the whole of society, they start feeling like something's wrong with them, like they're not normal, like they can't be healthy unless they fit into this very narrow idea of what a healthy body is supposed to look like. And these feelings of failure can then lead to discrimination and prejudice toward people in larger bodies. And the discrimination pushes people toward even more damaging things like disordered eating or overexercising. So, I know that was a fair bit of information, but essentially, we've got an approach that doesn't work great long term, and when it doesn't work, it makes people feel like failures, and then they internalize that and start blaming themselves, and they sometimes end up in an even worse place, health-wise, than where they started. So far, very promising. And this weight-focused approach perpetuates something else that's really important to talk about. That is weight stigma. So back to those Canadian medical guidelines. The latest version of one of those now includes research on weight stigma and weight bias and how these things can really contribute to health problems. People in larger bodies face discrimination everywhere, at work, on public transport, at school, in healthcare settings. It's everywhere. And this discrimination has real measurable impact on both physical and mental health. Weight stigma and bias are linked with more severe metabolic problems, a 60% increase in the risk of all-cause mortality, more disordered eating, and greater psychological distress. That's a 60% increase in risk of death from any cause. That alone should be enough to make us all start questioning if this is the right way to go. And there are several underlying mechanisms that researchers think are happening with this relationship between weight stigma and worsened health outcomes. One of which is when people experience stigma, it triggers stress hormones like cortisol and other inflammatory responses in the body, which creates this vicious cycle where the stigma itself contributes to weight gain, which leads to more stigma, and round and round and round we go. So the stigma that people are holding against other people while claiming that it'll somehow help people to become healthier is actually contributing to the very health problems that they're supposedly trying to prevent by focusing way too much on weight loss. So where are we? We've got an approach to health that focuses way too much on weight. It might work for a little bit, but it doesn't work super well long term. And it makes people feel like failures when it doesn't work, and it might push people to worse health than where they started from. And it perpetuates stigma, which itself causes even more harm to people's health. So what do you think we should do? It's obvious. I mean,
we gotta keep doing the same thing.
No, we should see if there's a better alternative. In comes health at every size. Alright, so it all began with a group of healthcare workers who were starting to get a little bit fed up. They were watching the whole just lose weight approach fail people over and over and over again, even leading to negative health outcomes. And they started asking, you know, that thing that we're supposed to do, we still doing that? Because they can obviously see that pursuing weight loss was often causing more problems than it was solving. This eventually became what we now call health at every size, or HAES for short. Although its history can be traced all the way back to the 70s, it was officially trademarked in 2003 by an organization called the Association for Size Diversity and Health. So what is HAES about exactly? Instead of focusing on body weight, shape, or size, HAES encourages people to build a fulfilling and meaningful lifestyle. This means eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, and moving your body in ways that feel good, not just because you're trying to hit a number on the scale. HAES looks at health as this big picture thing that takes into account several other things that can contribute to your health, like emotional, economic, and even spiritual needs. And it emphasizes that social, cultural, and political things like poverty, weight stigma, and access to healthcare all play a role in someone's health. The main goals of health at every size are to reduce weight bias and discrimination, reduce the guilt and shame people feel about eating in their bodies, and focus on the benefits of building healthy behaviors like eating well or moving your body rather than on weight loss. I don't know about you, but I think this sounds pretty promising to me. So let's have a look at what the research actually says. So one study looked at a program that worked with women who had sedentary lifestyles that didn't focus on weight loss at all, just on building healthy habits and psychological well-being. And after 3 months, these women had less psychological distress and better cardiorespiratory fitness. There were some modest changes in body weight, but they weren't statistically significant. But basically, they felt better mentally and their cardio fitness was improving without focusing on weight loss at all. Another study compared a health at every size group to a traditional diet group and found that the health at every size group maintained their weight and saw improvements in blood pressure, lipid levels, energy expenditure, eating behavior, self-esteem, depression symptoms, body image, and all of these improvements lasted over time. Meanwhile, the diet group did lose weight initially, but they couldn't keep it off at the follow-up and didn't sustain as many of the other improvements as the health at every size group. The researchers concluded that health at every size helped people stick with behavior changes long-term, while the traditional diet approach didn't. Other research has found similar things. We have systematic reviews and meta-analyses, which are pretty much the highest level of evidence in scientific research, showing that health at every size interventions can lead to improvements in cholesterol, lower rates of depression, better sense of fullness when eating, and fewer disordered eating behaviors. So lots of positive results from the health at every size approach. And then there's also something called intuitive eating, which is an integral part of the health at every size approach. It's all about listening to your body, eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, and it's about developing a positive relationship with food. Research shows that intuitive eating is strongly linked with a better body image and less psychological distress, especially for people at risk of eating disorders. And something really cool happens when people accept their bodies more. They're actually better at intuitive eating. It creates this positive cycle where body acceptance helps you eat more intuitively, which helps you feel better about your body, which helps you eat even more intuitively, and it all feeds into itself in a really nice way. So you're telling me that when we accept and respect that bodies naturally come in all different shapes and sizes, when we work towards trying to end weight discrimination and stigma, and when we eat based on what our body is telling us rather than following some rigid diet plan that focuses on weight control, and when we move our bodies in ways that are enjoyable regardless of our size, we end up improving our health. Yeah, it's what it looks like. Who would have thunk it? However, there's still a bit of skepticism and confusion around the concept of size acceptance. So the core of health at every size is size acceptance, and that's great. But it seems size acceptance can also get misunderstood and twisted into meaning don't even bother trying to be healthy, or lifestyle changes don't matter, or you shouldn't even try to be healthier. That's not what it means, but that's how it sometimes gets interpreted. And despite years of people trying to clear this up, the misunderstanding persists. A lot of people worry that accepting our body size means giving up on our health. One study found that people feared that size acceptance would lead to complacency and a giving up attitude. Even some researchers have overtly rejected the whole idea of size acceptance because they worry it would delay people from making lifestyle changes, which they fear would somehow lead to a permanent state of obesity. And likewise, some other researchers, while advocating for the reduction of weight bias, express being not okay with the okay at every size as far as health is concerned. Again, making an implicit connection between size acceptance and health, as if size acceptance would just automatically encourage people to adopt or maintain unhealthy habits. But the thing is, we've kind of already addressed all of this with the evidence that we had talked about earlier, that health can be improved through lifestyle changes even without weight loss, and not focusing on weight loss can actually be even more effective at encouraging people to adopt long-lasting healthy habits. And health at every size is not about being anti-weight loss. Health at every size just doesn't promote weight loss as the only primary health strategy. In other words, it simply doesn't shove weight loss down everybody's throats. Because first of all, weight is not a behavior. You can't just do weight. Weight is not an action. You can choose to move your arms and move your legs. But what are you supposed to do with something as abstract as weight? Weight is just a result of gravity. It can't do anything. It's just a thing. It's like space. You can choose to move from point A to point B. That's an action, but you can't just tell space to just not. So yeah, what we can do is change our eating habits or movement habits or how we take care of ourselves. Weight might change as a result, or it might not. That's fine. Our health is still improving, and that's the point we're trying to get to. And Health at Every Size encourages people to focus on those behaviors, the things that you can actually control, not the number on the scale. And then very simply, making weight the focus perpetuates weight stigma. And as we've talked about earlier, that stigma itself is dangerous. So with Health at Every Size, if someone loses weight as a result of changing their behaviors or taking better care of themselves, great, we'll take it. It's just not the entire goal, right? Because the entire goal is to improve their health. Because let's say someone starts eating more vegetables, moving their body more, sleeping better, managing stress better, all great things, right? But maybe they don't lose weight or don't lose as much weight as they were told to. Even though their health is genuinely improving, they still feel discouraged because the number on the scale didn't change or didn't change enough. And then what happens? They give up on all those healthy changes because they feel like it didn't work. And while we're talking about scales, let's go on a quick tangent for a second. We know that relying too much on the scale can really mess with our relationship with our body and with food. And for some people, the scale becomes this thing that takes up a lot of their mental space. They're checking it constantly, their entire mood can be dictated by those numbers on the scale. But the thing is, even if the number on the scale isn't changing, they might be losing body fat, gaining muscle, sleeping better, feeling better. It's not like the scale is capable of telling you any of those positive things. And those smart scales that claim to measure your body fat percentage by sending an electrical current through your body, I mean, they're not completely useless, but it's just that they can't actually tell muscle from fat like they claim to be able to do. What these scales are doing is just measuring how easily the electrical current flows through you, because the current flows more easily through muscle and bone than through fat, because muscle and bone have more water and electrolytes. But if you're dehydrated, like if you just woke up or just worked out and didn't drink enough water, there will be less water in your body, less water in your muscles. So the current flows through slower, and the scale interprets that slowness as this person has more body fat when you're simply just dehydrated. Basically, those fancy scales, take them with a grain of salt, or maybe with a glass of water. I don't know, you do you, boo. So now, tangent over. To balance the picture out a little bit, I think it's also important to consider some situations where Health at Every Size might not be super helpful. For example, things like this can happen. You can pause and read the whole story if you'd like. And trigger warning for eating disorders. But basically, this person had been going to a body image eating disorder therapist who really believes in Health at Every Size and had been very helpful in terms of helping her heal her relationship with food. But now this person has new health concerns and goals, namely, her and her husband are wanting to try for a baby. But she's worried that her BMI might have a negative impact on her baby's health. So she wants to be supported to lose weight without spiraling into an eating disorder again. This is a very valid health concern, and it's clear that she had thought through this very carefully and very thoroughly. But the problem is, her therapist seemed to have been very anti-weight loss and was failing to recognize that her client had new goals and new concerns now. And it's understandable, given the client's history of eating disorders, that the therapist would want to make sure that the client's goals are not because of some societal pressure to look a certain way. That's fair. But the problem is, the therapist seemed to be stuck on this instead of actually supporting the client to achieve her goals safely and effectively. And this person now doesn't know if she can be honest to her therapist because she's worried that her therapist would react negatively. A healthcare provider is there to provide healthcare and to support the client, not the other way around. Ideally, there should have been a safe environment where the client could feel comfortable being fully transparent with the therapist about their concerns and their goals, and then the therapist could maybe actually help to clarify what Health at Every Size is about, because it's not about being super anti-weight loss and whether it's the right approach for this person. And no one should be made to feel ashamed or guilty for having health concerns, especially ones like these, because they're completely valid. And then there's a whole nother layer to add to the complexity. It's the social polarization. So on one end of the spectrum, there's fat phobia. And I think we can all agree that fat phobia is bad. But some folks have gone completely the other direction to say that all thin bodies are bad and are starting to shame people for being in a thinner body. And if you're in a larger body and you want to lose weight, then that's somehow inherently fat phobic and you're somehow betraying the body inclusivity movement and you should be ashamed of yourself. But that's not what weight inclusivity means. We seem to have a tendency as a society to get ourselves into this weird polarized thinking where we think that for one thing to be true, the opposite has to be false. Like there's nothing in between. Like if thin bodies are good, then larger bodies must be bad. And if larger bodies are good, then thin bodies must be bad. But it's not about good or bad. The polarization, the binary doesn't make sense. Larger bodies are not the opposite of thinner bodies. They're all just bodies. And the whole point is to celebrate all body sizes and shapes and to remove the guilt and shame that just gets unfairly dumped on people just because of how their body looks, not to create more guilt and shame. You guys remember when Adele or Lizzo lost weight? Many people weren't kind about it. I mean, people were never kind from the beginning. There were always mean comments, like all of these. And then these women lost weight and they got more mean comments, just in a different form. They literally can't win. It's sad that what someone chooses to do with their own body has become this public referendum, like everyone gets a vote on whether it's okay for them to have any sort of health goals or make any changes to their own bodies. And this applies to both celebrities and us commoners. Our health goals shouldn't have to be a political statement. That was never the point of Health at Every Size. Health at Every Size was never created to demonize people for having certain health goals or wanting to lose weight. Health at Every Size was created to protect people's health and to combat weight stigma, not to create more stigma, just shift it to a different population. Okay, oof. So we've covered a lot. Let's try and bring this all together somehow. Again, I'm not here to tell you what you should think, but for me personally, what I took away from all this is that what we need as a society is a kinder world. And as individuals, we all have the power to contribute to that. A world where we can all be kind to each other and be kind to ourselves and be kind to all of our wonderful bodies. And importantly, being kind to ourselves does not mean giving up. It doesn't mean we're renouncing our health. Being kind to ourselves means that we recognize that we have the autonomy and the freedom and the fluidity to fully participate in all of the wonderful activities of life. That means we can enjoy cake at our nephew's birthday party without drowning in guilt. It means we can have a movie night with our family and enjoy some popcorn without feeling ashamed. And it also means that we can recognize that experimenting with new ways of moving our bodies in ways that feel good and introducing new foods and more variety into our diet will ultimately add to the quality of our life. These things help our bodies function well, so we can continue to have the freedom to keep doing the things that we enjoy with the people that we love. All of that is being kind to ourselves, and we shouldn't have to feel ashamed about our bodies, whatever size it is, whatever it looks like. And whatever health concerns we might have, whatever goals we have for ourselves, we shouldn't have to feel ashamed about those either. We should be able to get the help we need and deserve, whatever approach makes the most sense for us. We want to remove shame entirely from this conversation. No shame about our body, no shame about our weight, no shame about having health concerns, no shame about seeking help for those concerns. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about picking a side and tearing down the other side. It's about helping everyone live their best life, one that is accessible to them, because we know that not everyone has the same access to the same things, and recognizing that every single person deserves kindness and respect and healthcare that actually helps them without shaming them. So yes, there are several systemic societal level things that need to be changed to help more people have access to healthier lives, but at the individual level, I think we can all start with a little kindness. Kindness is a superpower. And so I hope we all can allow ourselves to be the super people that we are and be kinder to each other and be kinder to ourselves. I think that's a pretty solid first step to building healthier lives. Well, okay. That's all the cheese I have. I love you all. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you want. See you next time.